Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to class today. We're going to be taking a look at GDP per capita for Central America and Mexico, and also literacy rate in Central America and Mexico. And we're focusing on these because we are going to look at factors that cause people to leave the countries that they live in Latin America. Think about last week. Last week we talked about Cuba. What caused people to leave Cuba? Okay, well, a totalitarian government with Fidel Castro as the dictator, and also Cuba's embrace of communism. That's what caused people to leave and flee to the United States. What has caused people to leave Mexico? Oh, drug cartels. What have drug cartels done? Well, a lot of murders, a lot of kidnapping, a lot of terrorism, what we call narco-terrorism. That has caused people to leave Mexico. Now, remember, we're not jumping into the issue of immigration, actual immigration versus illegal immigration. We're just talking about, okay, what are the factors that are causing people to leave, okay? So, drug cartels are causing people to leave Mexico. Well, we're going to take a look at Central America. That is our area of North America. We're still on the continent of North America, but the area south of Mexico. So that's going to be Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. We're going to take a look at those countries, and we're going to look at literacy rate, GDP per capita, and we're going to ask ourselves, okay, which countries are people probably going to try to leave from, and what are the factors that are causing them to leave? Now, if you remember, a factor or a reason that is causing someone to leave their country, a reason for someone to leave their country, is called a push factor. What is pushing them out of the country? If you're thinking, okay, well, what are factors that would cause someone to want to come in to a new country? Those would be pull factors, okay? So, easy one we could talk about, what would be a push factor that would cause someone to leave their country? Oh, a totalitarian government like Cuba, where the people have no freedoms, freedom of speech, right to bear arms, freedom of religion, all that stuff is gone. Those would be push factors pushing people out of Cuba. Now, if Cuba wanted to bring people back to Cuba, well, what would be some pull factors? Allowing freedom, allowing free elections. You know, when I say allowing freedom, freedom of speech, same thing as I said before, right to bear arms, freedom of religion, having actual elections where people can choose their leaders. Those would be pull factors that would cause people to come into the country, would come into Cuba. So, for today, we're taking a look at Central America. What are some of their factors in terms of literacy rate and GDP per capita, and is that going to push people out of the country or pull other people into the country? So let's take a look. GDP per capita. First of all, if you're asking yourself, per capita, I know that's the word that we covered. What is it? I'm about to go over it. GDP per capita is the average amount of money that a citizen of whatever country we're talking about makes in a year. So, Panama, the average person in Panama makes $31,459 a year. The average person in Mexico makes $19,796. As you can look at the screen, we can go on from there. Costa Rica, $19,642. And then look at this drop-off. El Salvador, $8,776. So we went, if we're just going in order, from Costa Rica, where the average person in Costa Rica makes $19,642 a year, to El Salvador, where the average person makes $8,776. All right, that's a huge drop-off, and it doesn't get much better. Guatemala, $8,763. Belize, $7,005. Honduras, $5,728. Nicaragua, $5,407. That's the average amount that a person's going to make in a year in these countries. Now, if you're asking yourself, okay, well, where do we go from there? Well, before we move on, I think it doesn't take a genius to realize, Panama probably doesn't have that much immigration, or I should say emigration with an E. We'll talk, if you look at your vocabulary video, we talk about the difference between emigration and immigration, all right? So Panama probably does not have a lot of emigration, people leaving the country. Costa Rica doesn't have a lot of emigration. Mexico should not have a lot of emigration, people leaving the country, except for the fact that the drug cartels control so much of Mexico there's other factors that are involved with people leaving Mexico. But obviously we can look and go, hey, if you're only making a 4-digit income for the year, if you're El Salvador to Nicaragua, I can see why a lot of people would want to leave. But let's take a look at something. Let's see if we can make a connection between GDP per capita and literacy rate. You ready? Well, even if you're not ready, I'm still going to turn the slide anyway. So, literacy rate. We've got Costa Rica at 97.9% literacy rate. Now, if you're asking yourself, wait a second, I know we talked about literacy rate, but what is it? I'm about to go over it. Literacy rate is the percentage of adults in the country who can read and write. Now, a lot of times they'll count it from 15 and up. So whoever's 15 and up, they'll count it up from there. It's just easier sometimes to say the percentage of adults who can read and write in the country. So Costa Rica, 97.9% of the adults can read and write in the country. Mexico, 95.4%. Panama, 95.4%. But now, look, we've got a drop off. We get to El Salvador, 88.5%, no longer in the 90s. Honduras, 87.2%. Belize, 82.8%. Nicaragua, 82.6%. Guatemala, 81.5%. So there's a huge drop-off after these three countries. In the mid to high 90s, all of a sudden we're now in the 80s in terms of percentage of adults who can read and write. Now, if I were looking for a connection, I wonder if any of you guys spotted a connection. Because I talked about it in passing, but any of you guys spot a connection between the literacy rate chart, I should say statistics, and the GDP per capita statistics? Some of you guys are going, hey, the first three countries, and then there's a drop-off, and I think the first three countries are the same. Yes, even though they've switched orders a little bit. Panama, Mexico, Costa Rica. Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama. Panama, Mexico, Costa Rica. Costa Rica, Mexico, Panama. Those three countries, these three countries here, have the highest literacy rate, and they also have the highest GDP per capita. Their literacy rate is in the 90s, I was going to say 90th percentile, in the 90s in terms of percentage. And look, they've got 5-digit incomes. Once we have the country drop into the 80s, their income also dropped into the 80s in Latin America. So we should see an obvious connection there. And by the way, I want you to think about it. There are other factors that are involved in how much money someone makes. It's not just literacy rate. So I don't want you to go away from this video thinking literacy rate is the only thing that determines how much money a person's going to make. But it is pretty important to be able to read and write. So it's not the only factor, but it is definitely an important factor. All right, so you notice these three again. We notice the per capita is definitely higher for those three, and then a drop off each time. So we can conclude that literacy rate and GDP per capita in many ways go hand in hand. Again, it's not the only way. I shouldn't say many ways. It's not the only factor that determines how much money you make, but it's an important factor. So I know that the percentage of people that can read and write in the country, the higher that is, chances are we're going to see a correlation or a connection with the literacy rate going up as well. All right? Now, here's a question for you. Why? Why is that the case? Why is it that the more people that can read and write, the higher the per capita, the higher the amount of money that a person can make in a country? Why is that the case? You need to answer that, and that's your assignment to submit that. I do not want you to go to the internet and type in stuff and copy paste. I want you to use your own words. The more people that can read and write in a country, the higher the amount of money that they can make. Why? Why is that? Why are those two connected together? I want you to answer that, submit that to me, okay? The only other thing that we're going to take a look at, I know normally I end this video with an assignment, but the only other thing that I want you to take a look at is simply this, okay? Costa Rica and Panama, with their percentage in terms of literacy and also their per capita, we don't see a lot of migration. That doesn't mean that nobody moves from Panama to the U.S. or that nobody immigrates from Costa Rica to the U.S. But we notice that the rates of people leaving Panama or leaving Costa Rica is a lot less than the rates of people leaving El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, and we'll add Mexico because of the drug cartels. We notice that people tend not to leave these two countries as much. People tend to leave these countries a lot, looking for a better life. And you can tell. I mean, if I'm making $7,005 a year, I may think, man, I might try to move to a different country. Again, want to immigrate legally and actually follow the rules of that country. But you know what? I'd actually like to try my luck in a different country where I can make a better living. And again, if I notice that 82.6% in Nicaragua, that is the literacy rate. Again, legally, I want to immigrate and maybe move to a country that has better schools or has a bigger emphasis on schooling, right? All that's going to be important. All these are drivers that determine people leaving their country and moving to another country, all right? So I think I've repeated myself enough, but I think you guys get what the lesson is and why people move and what would cause people to stay. If you have any questions, email me. Obviously, I'll be on conference. Let me know if you have any questions. All right? You've already heard your assignment, so do your assignment. Have a good day, guys.